wanted to record this. I've done this before at Brothers Keeper. If any of you were at Brothers Keeper fundraiser this year in November, I actually was the speaker at that. And but I've changed it. Why am I not getting the thing here?
You're not plugged up.
Yeah, I am. I just got to find out why it's not doing this.
Yeah, it is. I see it.
I think it'll do it now. I've added a few things because of this being the Historical Society for Poplarville. My adventure was not tied in that much, so I've done some things to the presentation that I didn't do, so if you were there, it's going to be different, okay? And the first thing I want to tell you is that I am not a speaker, but I'm a talker. So you may have to like shut me down because once I get started I may not be able to stop. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about my father's World War II journey. He ended up at the end of the war as a captain. And I want to let you know that a little bit about him because after all this is his story. For one thing, my father was a very educated man. He graduated from Tulane in engineering, I think mechanical and civil engineering. He even helped, if those of you familiar with New Orleans, he helped engineer the Canal Street in New Orleans back in the 20s or whenever that was. But my father had a very dear love for children, for young people, and so he left his engineering career and became a teacher. So he became a teacher of math, algebra, chemistry, physics, and all, and he did that instead of his engineering career. I'm sure he could have made a lot more money if he had stayed an engineer, but he did become a teacher and loved it, and was a good teacher. And if you run into people who he's taught, which a couple of them have lived here, Sam Lesh, if y'all know Sam Lesh, he always talks about how wonderful a teacher my father was. So I've got to brag on him a little bit, okay? My father was also, besides this, he was an avid photographer. He was not a professional photographer, but he took pictures all the time. And so when he went into the Army, he also took pictures. So through his training period, through his time overseas, I have probably over 1,000 photos that he had taken while he was over there. And not only did he take the pictures, he's a lot better than I am, he actually annotated the date that they were taken, the place that they were taken, and the names of the people that were in the photos. So I have boxes of photos from his time in the Army, and they're just a treasure. They're a treasure to me. A couple of years ago, I started digitizing them because, you know, they're getting old, and I wanted to preserve them as much as I could, and eventually I'd like to donate them maybe to the World War II Museum if they would like to have them. But anyway, in digitizing them, well, let me back up. Not let me back up, but let me do this. Let me get this little, okay. All right, how am I going to get I wanted the slideshow to show. Okay, that is a picture of my father. I don't know right off the top of my head where this picture is, but it's somewhere in Europe. He was in France. He went into England and then crossed over into France and then got into Germany also. But this is just a picture I wanted you to see him. All right, guess where he got inducted? He got inducted at Camp Shelby, so that's my tie-in to Poplarville. He was in Camp Shelby. So in 1942, he left his teaching career, in March I think, he left teaching and came over here and was inducted into the Army at Camp Shelby. So I brought with me a few old pictures of Camp Shelby. I can't testify to any of these pictures exactly, but obviously that's the hospital, and these are some other of the grounds, the buildings. I'm sure that's barracks and such. I think that sign says like the Officers Club or something, that building there. I just thought this was an interesting walkway. I think those are barracks up in there. Um, and again, I'm not sure what that sign says. It might be part of that officers club. But again, it's Camp Shelby. And I don't have all of the notes from the pictures with me in my presentation, but I could tell you, if I went to my album at home, I could tell you exactly where that was. But I can't spend that much time. Okay, retracing his steps. Like I said, I had started digitizing these pictures about 5 or 6 years ago and became fascinated with the people in the pictures. I mean, I started to become familiar with these pictures. And he met families, you know, people that were there in the war in France, the families that were there. I had pictures of the soldiers that he was with, you know, their names. I knew these people. You know, I could see them in a picture and I could say their name before I even read it. So in any case, he was in a little town called Neufchâteau, France. And let me show you this little picture here. I know it's kind of weird, but that's how he took the picture. It was cut off. It was not a very good picture he took there. So anyway, these people, he's got the names. I can name these people. The lady over on this side is Mrs. Lataye. The lady in the middle, or the girl, she's actually like a young woman in the middle up there, is Odile Lataye. And the lady on the right is Mrs. Robert. The little girl down at the bottom's name is Denise Robert. And that's her dog Penny. So I know these people. I feel like I've gotten to know these people. So I became really interested in these people. Again, I think that's Mr. Lataye and Mrs. Lataye and Odile and Mrs. Robert. Yeah, Mrs. Robert. There they are again. And the little girl, I just became fascinated with this little girl. She is the most precious little girl with that big bow in her head. And in some of the pictures, you can really see she's got bright blue eyes. Even though they're in black and white, you know she's got these blue eyes. Beautiful, beautiful pictures.
Is she holding a candy bar there?
Yes. Oh, yes. Very good observation. That's an important point.
It's a Hershey's, huh?
Oh, I went the wrong way. Hang on, hang on. She has a Hershey bar, and that's a point. That's an important point because I'm going to say something about that later on. Yes, she has her Hershey bar. You know the soldiers would always give out the candy, the Hershey bars, the gum and everything. Yes, a Hershey bar in her hand. Thank you for being so observant. All right, and there they are again around their house, and there's a couple of the soldiers there. I think these women would cook for the soldiers and have them over to eat with them or whatever, and you know, they got to be friends with them. This is Odile Lataye. She was a kind of a teenager. I would imagine maybe, I don't know, maybe in her late teens or whatever. I have a letter that she wrote my father. I have the original letter that she wrote my father, the envelope, the whole thing. I've got a picture of it in here later on. So keep her in mind too. And there's my daddy. That nail is kind of aggravating, isn't it? Do y'all see that nail right there in the middle of the picture? It's on the wall, not the picture. In any case, this is my daddy. And I know I'm an old lady and I still call him daddy, but I can't help it, okay? I could say my father, but he's my daddy. And Denise Robert. Okay. Because I became familiar with these people, I got really interested in these people. So what I ended up doing, my husband and I last April had planned a river cruise on the Rhine River, going down from Amsterdam down to Basel, Switzerland, and we would be through parts of Germany, or going through Germany and France. So I told my husband, Bo, I said, let me look and see where Neufchâteau is in relation to where we're going to be. So I did, and it's right there near the border of Germany. So I knew it was near the Rhine River. So I looked on the map and I was like, let's do this. I said, we're going to take the trip to along the Rhine River, on the river, you know, the cruise. And when we're finished, we're going to rent a car and we're going to drive up. We have to go back because we ended up in Switzerland. We drove up to France and we did GPS to Neufchâteau, France. And it took us right there, and that is the town hall. So this is now pictures that I have taken. So this is the town hall in Neufchâteau, France. So I didn't know what we were going to do, but I had visions of just going into little cafes, you know, and sitting around and talking with the local folks. I mean, it's a little bitty town. It makes Poplarville look like a big city. It was very little town. But I thought, well, you know, people know each other and all, so I'll just sit in a cafe and using my very best high school French from, 50 years ago, I'd see how I could converse with these people. But anyway, the GPS took us right to the town hall. So we went into the town hall, and fumbling around with my little French, I talked to the clerks at the counter in the town hall, and got myself known a little bit. But there was a lady. The post office was also in the same building. So there's a lady over like next to the next section of the counter. She was at the post office. So she came, walked over, and she said, "Excuse me," she said, "I speak English." She said, "Can I help you?" I said, "That'd be lovely. Yes, thank you." So her name was Marie Agnes, and she became our friend and stayed with us the day and a half that we were in Neufchâtel, and she was like our translator. So Marie Agnes comes over and she explains to the clerks that I'm looking for Odile Letaye, that was the young teenage girl, and I'm looking for Denise Robert, because I figured none of those old people were going to be around anymore. You know, this is we're talking about 1945 now. So they go in the back, not like in the U.S. They go in the back, they come to the front of the counter, and they said, "Yes, here she is. She's now Denise Robert Rosé, I think, and she lives at this address." I mean, they gave me her address and everything. She was still living, and she lived in the town. I was ecstatic. So, unfortunately, Odile Letaye had died. She had died about 2 years earlier. So I knew I had not caught up with Odile, but I did catch up. You know, I found Denise. So we get the address, and we decide to take a walk, and Marie Agnes kept us company the whole time. So Bo and Marie Agnes and I walk through the little town, and we go to the address that we have for Denise, and there I am, the first meeting of Denise. This is the little girl in that picture.
Oh.
She's 76 years old. She was about 4 or 5 in the picture, and she doesn't speak any English. So that's her husband, Jacques. Originally, Jacques came to the door and was like, "Can I help you?" He sees these 3 strangers at the door, and he's like, can I help you? So Marie Agnes told him what we were looking for. So he says, "Denise," and Denise comes to the door, and Denise is kind of like, you know, who are these people? And I showed her, well, I thought that was the next picture, but it's not. I showed her the picture I had. If you remember the one with my daddy with her sitting by him, I showed her that picture. In my best French, I said, mon père est ici dans la guerre. And I'm thinking that I'm saying, you know, my father was here in the war. But it may not have been, but she could understand what I said. And she was like amazed. She was amazed. I mean, we cried and everything. It was just wonderful. So she said, "I remember your father." She said, "He would give me Hershey bars." She said he would also take me to the movies. I guess the military must have had movies for the guys and all. He would take her to the movies. Nowadays, if a 30-something-year-old Army guy wanted to take a 5-year-old, you know, today's a different day. But she would go with him. She said I would fall asleep in the movies sometimes. But she remembered my father, and she said, "I remember thinking, what a good father he must be." Well, I wasn't even, my mom and dad weren't even married yet. I wasn't born yet. But, you know, she had this idea. So she tells me, she said, "I remember this picture." She said, "My mom had this picture in the house." So apparently my daddy had had these pictures taken, gave them another picture, and so she had the picture. So we got to talking and everything, and prior to that, while we were still in the city hall, this young guy said, "This is really an interesting story." He said, "Let me call the mayor, and let's see, we may get newspapers involved." So I said, "All right." So he calls Marie Agnes and says, "We've got a 4 o'clock meeting at City Hall with the mayor and the newspaper." So I told Denise and her husband, "Come to City Hall at 4 o'clock and we're going to have a meeting." So after that, we left them, and Maria Agnes took us around for a little tour of the town. So the next place we stopped is this house. This house is the same house that they are standing in front of. And if you look, oh, you can't see it very well on this picture, but if you look, this has got like wrought iron in the glass there, like wrought iron work. And you see the number is 14. Well, oops, hit the wrong key. If you look over here, it's got the same wrought iron, and if you can't see it, but it says 14 up there too. Same house, same house. It was somewhat different. They had renovated a little bit, painted it white, but it was the same house that my father had sat on with this little girl. You know, I still, every time I tell the story, I still get goosebumps. It's just an amazing story. This picture is my father in the same little town with a bunch of the kids. The kids are holding flags that they had drawn. And so after we had walked around the town, we went to this little cafe and that Marie Agnes's friend owned, and we met the locals. You know, it was a local hangout, like the men gathered around there and had their wine or beer or coffee or whatever. And so we went over there, and I had all these pictures that I had brought with me, printouts of pictures, and so the guys started looking, and one of the guys said he couldn't speak English, and Marie Agnes had to go to a funeral, so now I didn't have an English-speaking person with me. So he looks at this picture, and he says, it's like he knew that house. He knew where he was conveying to me. So he said, let me think, la boulangerie et pâtisserie, which means the bakery and the pastry shop. Well, I remember when we had walked to the city hall, there was a bakery and a pastry shop, and it said, la boulangerie et pâtisserie. So he says, la boulangerie et pâtisserie, this house there. So I knew it was in that area. So we were walking back to that 4 o'clock meeting, and we walked down, and we were going to pass the bakery and the pastry shop, and I looked across the street, and lo and behold, there is the building. Same building as that picture was taken on. Same building. And I've got a picture here where you can see the original picture down here, and it's the same building. I mean, the garage is there. There's some little bit of architectural differences in it, but not a lot. It's the same building. So we ended up finding that building besides. So that was really interesting. So we go on to our meeting with the mayor and the newspaper. This paper, you see the little thing in the corner there, it was in Le Républicain Lorraine. That was the local paper there, okay? So it made the paper. We were there on I think this was a Tuesday, and the paper came out on Friday, and it made the paper. I have never been able to get a hard copy of that paper. I keep asking them to send me one, and I haven't gotten it. But I've got the link to the online thing of the paper. Okay. This is Denise's picture of that picture. She went and found it in her mother's album. Her mother had died years ago, but she remembered it, and she went to her mother's album and found the picture and brought it with her to the meeting. So that was her picture that she had. But she's a better person than I am, because it would have taken me 3 years to find a picture that my mother had, probably. This is the two of us at the mayor, and that's another one of the pictures that was in the newspaper. This is Marie Agnes. This is Marie Agnes, our English translator. Just a real quick blurb in here. Turns out she knew how to speak English. She had lived in New Orleans for 5 years.
Oh,
now,
wow.
what's the chances of that, okay? So she lived in New Orleans for 5 years. She had a very good friend in Mandeville, Louisiana, where my son lives. I have since gone and met that lady and had lunch with that lady. So it was the whole story just came together. See, I still get it. It all just came together. It was meant to be. It was just, you know, God had to have hand in this whole thing because this. And the lady on the end over there is the mayor of Neuf Chef. And here again is,
What cute.
I just think it's the sweetest little picture. And that's the newspaper. Anybody that reads French, you can come up here and read it. I translated it with Google Translate. That's the envelope for the letter that Odile had sent my father. And that's the, it must have gotten wet at some point, but that's the letter. It was 2 pages long. Okay, so that's my story. Kind of, that was my daddy and my story. Okay, but now I want to show y'all some other things that, for the war. This is just a really interesting set of pictures my daddy had. It was 10 pictures, sequential, 10 sequential pictures. Okay, what you got there is like some kind of a tree, and they're stripping the bark off of it. Okay, so that's the first picture. The next picture, they're working on it. That might be where they're painting it, but they're working on that tree, that trunk. Now they're digging a hole. Now they're putting the pole in the hole, and they're setting that pole in the hole, and they're raising the flag on it. And there's the flag. And it was like the first flag that had flown over that area of Germany, I think, the American flag that had flown over that. And so look, they have all the guys are out there for the, whatever, what do you call it when you, the revelry, not revel, whatever it's called. Richard?
They're doing looks like they're doing a 21-gun salute.
Maybe so. What do you call it when you go there and salute the flag?
Raising of the colors.
Huh?
Raising of the colors.
Raising of the colors. They were all there participating.
In the morning and the afternoon, you lower the colors.
So that was my 10, those were 10, he had them wrapped up in tissue paper, all 10 together, and everything, all the words are on the back of it. But I thought that was just a really unique set of pictures. These next pictures, I'm going to flip through them quickly, but my father loved taking pictures, as I said, and he's got a lot of pictures here of locals, precious children. Look, these were the kids. That was one of his friends in the army, and there they are with the little kids. I love this picture. She's in that field of flowers. That one's not too clear. It's kind of light. Another thing, here we go. We're in the middle of war. This actually is Easter, and we're Catholic. And so that was the priest out there in the middle of the war, and they were having Easter Mass. So I thought that was, so he captured that. This one is, must have been like one of the officers' places where they stayed, because they would just stay in homes or whatever. So this apparently was one of the places that he stayed. Like I say, I don't have those notes with me. This is interesting, okay? He's not trying to be like sexy daddy. But, see, there's up here, that's a camera case. That's a camera he had with him there, taking all the pictures. I have the camera. I still have that camera. And you see these pictures over here? That's my mama.
Aww.
So I just thought that was a cute little picture that, he's on his bunk. And then, of course, his rifle over here. But his camera's there, and my mom's there, and they weren't married yet. They were just sweethearts, I guess. All right, now I have, I'm just going to flip through them. If you want to see them more, I'll slow them down, but I don't want to take a whole lot of time. But I've got several pictures that were just random ones that I picked out from the war pictures. Most of these are in France, around Metz, France, and Nancy, France, or in Germany, around Frankfurt, or Mainz, Germany. So it's like between France and Germany, that border area. That's where all these were taken. That was kind of a neat sign. There's y'all know what that's called?
Mm-mm.
What's that called? Anybody?
Tank trap.
Dragon's teeth. Dragon's teeth. That's what he had written on the picture. It's called Dragon's teeth.
Stop the tank.
There's a bombed out building
What were the dragon's teeth for?
to stop the tanks.
Tank trap.
Yeah, they put them there so they would. I have another picture. Look, this is a bunker. And from what I can tell here, from what I can see, it looks like these are all artillery shells. or, like the casings.
That's a Siegfried line.
Huh?
Siegfried line.
Maybe, I don't know.
What does that
You know
mean?
more about World War II. All I know is about my pictures.
The border between Germany and France.
Oh, okay, that line.
Yeah, look it up. It's on.
Here's some more devastation.
Wiki will wear you out with it.
This was kind of interesting. It was a downed Nazi plane. They took several pictures around it. This is, I think this said something about this was where they were staying for a while. Oh, and they were in France, okay? You gotta expect a bottle of wine when you're in France, okay? But look, behind them, that's the windows are all boarded up. So they wouldn't have the light out there. Looks like they got a potbelly stove over here. This is I told you that my father was involved in the radar, in the signal corps with the radar. This actually is early radar equipment. Maybe we shouldn't have had that picture taken, huh, Richard? He smuggled it out, I guess. This is a Nazi grave. Again, this is more, I don't know if this is Frankfurt. I'm not quite sure what town, but again, it's that area. I think that's that same building, but a different angle. Oh, I didn't realize I had. There's your dragon's teeth again. See, and that would make it hard for the tank to get through. At least slow them down. This was an ammo dump that they blew up. They destroyed. Again, some more rubble. But yet, sometimes you found the church untouched, which is, kind of neat. This is, I'm not sure, I don't know if this is the Moselle River. This might be the Moselle River if I'm remembering it right. But the Germans or the Americans, they would bomb the bridges to stop people, to stop the other side from getting across. So our guys would build a temporary bridge. So this is like a bridge that they built right then and there. It didn't take them long, but they'd get it built, and it's kind of on pontoons, I think. And the trucks are crossing on it. Again, I don't know if this is Frankfurt. Those trucks are full of prisoners, German prisoners. Again, just some more pictures of the rubble. I like this one with that church steeple still standing there. I mean, a lot of the churches were bombed, but some of them managed to, have some of it remain. A lot of them had to be repaired. I mean, we've been to Germany and we've been to France and all, and we've seen a lot of the big cathedrals, and you can see sometimes where they actually had to repair holes in it, and of course the bricks or whatever don't exactly match, so that's a memory of that. I guess this is when they were not so lucky to be in one of those houses. That's it. That's it.
Oh,
So I hope I didn't take too long. I hope I didn't bore you or take too long. But I'm just fascinated by it. I also, if anybody is interested, if you want to take a look up here afterwards, I brought some of the German, oh, don't fall, please. I brought some German memorabilia that he brought back. And this is kind of interesting. My father, I said, was anal about dates, and well, he recorded every day what he did. And it's funny because I said he went to the movies. Well, while he was stateside, he went to a lot of movies. And he would put on here, like went to see, I'm looking to see if I can find a movie real quick. Oh, that's when let's see, that was at Camp Shelby, let's see. Camp movie, 5 Graves to Cairo. So
did he rate them?
Huh?
Did he rate them?
No, he didn't rate them. He should have. Huh? But he has from 1942 to the last part comes up in 1944, I believe. Yeah, 44, like around June or July, and 1944. But he didn't record anymore after that. And I was talking to Richard, I think the reason is because he was in the radar area, it was probably a top secret area of work that he did, he probably couldn't write stuff down. because he definitely would have. He would have written down every detail, but his diary ends when he got to England, and then that's where it ended. Before he got to the next place, I think he got to Paris then. So I have that here. I also have these. I think are of some interest. They're commendations, letters of commendation that were sent to his company or to the, different units and all. But the interesting thing about it, I made copies of all these, but they're signed, and I'm sure the original that we have is like a mimeograph copy, but it's still a mimeograph copy. This one's signed with George Patton, with Omar Bradley, with Vandenberg, and Wayland. So if you're a World War II person, you recognize those names. I've got one over here that's, I don't think Eisenhower signed it, but they mentioned Eisenhower in one of these. So if y'all would like to, George Patton signed a bunch of these commendations because I guess he was over that particular company or whatever. So, now, Edie, where did you live?
Germany,
I know, what part?
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt, okay.
Did you recognize anything, Edie, in there?
I was born, I think 2 years old, and no, I do not recognize.
When did you leave Germany?
61.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking back, she said some of the buildings had been repaired.
See that one cathedral with the spires like that?
The churches look familiar.
That
Done.
one church with the spires, that may or may not have been in Frankfurt, but the churches are all fabulous over there. All of them are fabulous. The ones in France, the ones in Italy, the ones in Germany, they're fantastic. And, to think that some of them were destroyed is just really heartbreaking, but.
And too, Patton is buried over there.
No way.
Oh, really?
I took Mother to see his grave.
Really?
He insisted on being buried there.
Well, my husband and I are going back for another cruise in October, and this time we're going to Paris and we're going to Normandy. We've never been to Normandy, so this time we're going to go to Normandy. So,
Normandy's beautiful.
I'm ready for a big handkerchief, I'm sure. So if y'all want to look at these things, you're welcome to. I'm going to unplug this so y'all don't trip on it. But thank you so much, and I hope I didn't rattle on too long, but I
I wanted to see more.
Well, if you want to see more, I can put another slideshow together with different pictures. But I tried to pick out some that were just kind of typical of what he had,
Well, the two girls, those weren't related. The older one, they were just neighbors.
They were neighbors. They were neighbors, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I'm trying to find that younger girl, not Odile Letaye. Her name was not Odile Letaye. Her name was Irene Deutsch. I got them mixed up when we went there, and I got them mixed up again just now. The letter came from the girl that was on the steps with the mother and all. That was
Okay.
Odile. But the young teenage girl that was just standing there by herself, her name is Irene Deutsch, and I'm still in contact with my friend Mary Agnes and also with the mayor, and I'm trying to get them to research it. Mary Agnes, I talked to her just the other day, and she said she thinks that she has died, which is not unlikely. I mean, she probably would be like 80, in her late 80s or 90s if she was a teenager then, so. But the fact that Denise was still alive and living in the same town, and and to know that I was walking right where my father had walked. Oh, by the way, the Poplarville Democrat and the Picayune item ran this story. My story about my little trip to Nerfchef, and they had pictures in it too. If y'all missed it, I guess you can look online, but it's the same pictures that you saw. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody had any questions?
Yeah, ask me. Don't ask me stuff about World War II. I'll defer to Richard. We were talking about things earlier, and I'm not up on the World War II dates and things like that. So, all right.
We enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being invited because I really enjoy I think you can tell, I enjoy telling the
Have you
story.
been to the
Before
museum?
she
in
started,
Oh, yes, many times, yes.
I told her about, what is he, what was Peter to you?
I'm sorry, what?
What was he to you?
That was her
The man that you
dad.
know?
Yeah.
The man that you,
Yeah.
well, I had the title up there, and it said Carl Lazzaroni. Well, that's my father. And he spots that, he said, I wonder if that's related to the family in Kenner. And I'm like, yeah, we are the family in Kenner. He knew my uncle. And so we were chatting about Kenner and my uncle and all.
Yeah.
It's a small world. It's a small world.
Sure
I want
is.
to tell y'all something
Yeah, I lived
funny.
in Kenner for a while. And he was my competition, but he was fair. He was a good man.
We were talking about World War II and some friends and myself, and I said, you know, the thing that stands out as a child, I can remember there was this perfume, and I said it was in a blue bottle. I remember my mother having it had a tassel on it. I said, I thought that was so pretty, but I couldn't remember. It was very famous during World War II, and I racked my brain and never did come to it. And finally, I was in the drugstore and I was asking everybody, and they started, you know,
Googling?
And Pam walked through and she said, what are y'all talking about? And I told her, I said, I just can't remember the name of that perfume. And I said, I'd love to have one of those bottles to put in the museum with our World War II memorabilia. And she walked on off, and after a while she came back, she said, was it evening in Paris?
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that when you
She
said
found it
blue,
on the thing.
when you said blue bottle, I was like, I wonder if that's evening.
So
in
if you
Paris.
know anybody that's got one of those,
You're
we would
looking
love
for
to
it.
have one for the museum.
Wow.
I just thought it'd be kind of
Still
interesting.
buy
Huh?
No.
You can still buy it. In fact, it says in the Google, it says vintage bottles, and there,
And
it
the
shows
only
them.
place I found, I've searched everywhere, and there's a catalog that she got, and it was the Vermont Country Store. And you can order it to this day.
You can, and the bottles, they show different shapes of the bottles.
I
in
have
there.
one, Miss Jones.
Oh, you do have it? Would you consider donating it to us?
Wow.
Oh, I don't know.